All right, this is the Fight Night podcast covering UFC 308. The main event, Holloway versus Topuria, the fight everyone is clamoring for.
This is a 50-50 fight as it gets, in my opinion. Like, I don't think we're going to see a fight as this even in a while. Like, even Shafkat Bilal, it's even, but even then people are saying 60-40 Shafkat, 60-40 Bilal. Here, this is truly like 50-50 in my opinion.
I think they both have a lot of questions that they need to answer. And you'd think Max Holloway, given his long career, has answered every question in the book. But I think that after his last performance, I think he still has things to prove, things to show out on.
I mean, for this fight, there's only really one question for me and Max Holloway's point of view is, can he take the shot? That's all. Because if he can take the shot, I don't think there's a chance in life that Ilia Topuria can, beat him across rounds unless he uses his grappling, which he was known for when he started. We haven't seen it at all besides when he rocked Bryce Mitchell and then just ragdoll him. But that's hurting someone with the hands first, but then grappling. That's completely different from, an actual grappling match where you're dry at the start and someone's taking you down. That's completely different. So I think Ilya's I think he's also really high on himself. I don't think he'll take that grappling route. And even if he does, Max has been there with great grapplers. He's been there with great wrestlers. He's been there with people that know. He's been there with Jose Aldo, who's a great leg kicker, and who is great with hooks, which is Ilia Topuria's main combo. Is right hook to the head, left hook to the body, and it comes right back up, and then you're gone. He's been there with almost everyone. And he does have a good calf kick, which I think is one of his keys to victory for Max Holloway. Because if you're going to beat Max Holloway, you got to slow him down. Whether you're going to the body, you're going to the legs, you can't let him just dance around you, and then it's his type of fight. I think it's just there's too many tools in Max Holloway's box of tools versus Ilya's, where it's just that right hand, and then there's the grappling, but we haven't seen it. I can't say it's wonderful because he's only submitted Bryce Mitchell after hurting him, which is, I'll give you that. But Bryce Mitchell also hasn't been the greatest recently. So I can't go based off your grappling off of regional scene stuff. I can't.
I agree with that. I think that personally, the way to beat Max is kind of chop him out as a tree, start from the bottom, go way up, like you said, to tire him out. I think that's something we saw in the Volk third fight, especially. And coming to Topuria, as you said, he is similar to Sharabudian. He is very one-sided as far as striking. I don't think he's not knocked down anybody with a single kick.
No.
Yeah.
He's thrown one body kick in his entire career.
Right. I think it's Ryan against Ryan Hall, right?
Yeah. To your credit, do what you have to do in the fight. The leg kicks in a boxing, it's a great strategy. The strategy's obviously worked for him to get to the championship, but that is also less stuff that you have to worry about as your opponent. You don't have to think about, well, he has this as well, this as well. There's only two things that you really have to watch out for, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I think people just kind of also look at Max Holloway as a primary striker, especially coming more into the mainstream scene after 300, because rightfully so, UFC blew up, so a lot of people are now watching the fights. But I think they are sleeping on his wrestling. They're acting like he's somebody that has never once grappled, like he hasn't been, into the deep waters with grappling itself. He's known, he knows how to get taken down. He knows how it feels to be in the very last minutes getting choked out. I think that his experience will kind of prove detrimental in this one.
I'm gonna probably end up being the Max naysayer here. I think Max has not fought someone who pressures like Ilia Topuria. Ilia Topuria has very clean pressure, and Justin Gaethje, which was supposed to be, in my opinion, the pressure test for Max, didn't really pressure. It was a at-range striking match for much of it until about the fourth round, where Gaethje did do a little pressuring. And maybe the reason Gaethje didn't pressure is because his nose got broken in the first round and he really couldn't pressure. But Max has to prove that he can deal with that pressure against someone as good of a boxer as Ilia. And the other thing Max has to prove is that his chin is still there after dehydrating back down to 145. This is the only reason that I think the question of Ilia's power being able to hurt Max is there, because Max just bulked up with muscle to 155 and is coming back down. And Max has always had rough weight cuts, and now this one's probably even rougher. I saw his Mighty Mouse interview, and he's kind of slurring his speech. He's droning. He sounds coherent. He sounds good to an extent, but and he said he was good. But I have to question, will he actually be good on fight night?
I mean, granted, have you Max Holloway talking? He's exactly the best speaker. Like I'd put him against Stipe in the regards of bro, he makes his even in his normal speech. Like there's only a couple of times where I've probably seen that guy formulate 3 sentences that didn't have any type of pauses in between. Although I get what you mean. Like when he tried to go for Khabib, I think that was when they canceled the fight because he couldn't. But I don't think it's down to that level. I think he knows. He knows that he went to 150, he put on that muscle, and he has to get back down there. And I think he's been doing this since he was 20. I think he has the right people around him to get him there so that he's right on fight night. And I think there's definitely been bigger and worse weight cuts, as shown by Alex Pereira. I think he can do it, although it may affect his chin. Obviously, that's the way that works. But I think it might not be as much of a factor as it could be. And then the fact of Ilia still has to land the shot regardless. And he has to land a clean shot because Max is really good at rolling with those punches. Although he can get caught, I think he's only been caught by the Gaethje on the side of the ear.
And Poirier.
And Poirier. So it's been twice. It's only been twice and then Poirier was more of a flash. Well, I guess you'd call both of them flashes. Yeah, he recovered very quickly. And I think Poirier's was a straight. It was a cross. Mm-hmm. Gaethje's was the right hook, which doesn't really bode well Ilia-wise. But at the same time, it is also Gaethje. So
it was also a collar tie right hook.
Correct, which is Ilia's best is up close, and it's right there. It's how he, dusted Volk. Volk went in for the collar tie, and then there that goes. Although Max did land a great uppercut when that happened, and we don't even know how good is Ilia's chin. We've seen him get head kicked by Jai Herbert and come back. Mm-hmm. That is pretty great, but we haven't seen it since. We haven't seen him get cracked since.
He did take some. I rewatched the Josh Emmett fight, though Josh Emmett is not the fighter that Max is. He poses none of the same difficulties. I only watched it because that is really Ilia's best performance of his career, even better than the Volk fight, where he just dominated throughout the whole fight. Ilia did get hit by a left hook that sent him flying across the canvas by a man with nuclear armaments in his hands, and also he got hit with a few right overhands, and he took them. I don't think with a guy like Max, who only really finishes people when they sell out, when they go all in on him, I don't think Ilia is going to be. I don't think his chin is going to be tested like it was against Josh Emmett.
I think it's a bit of both because Ilia plays a waiting game. He is a pressure striker, but he does not use strikes to really get there as much as other people do. Like in the Volk Holloway 3 fight, Volk and just all three of them really. Volk uses almost like a Robert Whittaker style of just blitzing in. Like he can use his, I guess you would call, little rugby dashes to get in and out. Ilia is not the guy that dashes. He takes a slow, methodical approach of getting there. And if you're taking a slow, methodical approach against Max Holloway, you're most likely going to be down that first round. That first round is most likely going to be given up. But Max Holloway isn't a guy in Volk where Volk was just trying to, little picks here and there, throwing that switch head kick many times, same thing over and over again, which I didn't like in my own opinion. But against Max Holloway, if you're taking that slow approach, it is going to be boxing needs to be thrown at you. So can Ilia take the slow approach? Will Max allow him to, even when he does get him against the cage, to be able to throw that combination? And can he get him to the cage? Because Max he doesn't back up. There's only some times where you're able to pressure him. Gaethje was able to pressure him a couple times, get him to the fence. He was able to get out of there. You're just always behind when you're fighting Max Holloway if you're a slow fighter. And can he deal with that?
I think one big thing that we haven't touched on yet is whether Ilia Topuria has a gas tank to last those 5 rounds, keeping the same pace with Max Holloway. Because Max Holloway is, in my opinion, arguably one of the better strikers as far as it comes to cardio in featherweights. So keeping that same pace as he did with Volk throughout those 5 rounds, I think that's going to be his dying sword here.
I completely agree. Though Max Holloway is not the same fighter he was when he fought Dustin Poirier or Jose Aldo, I think Max Holloway has changed his style. He's become more of a distance, pokey striker than the pressure, flood you with volume he used to be. But I even checked over his stats. He still throws a ridiculous amount of strikes.
He still throws a lot, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he even though when he was fighting Jose Aldo, it was much more. You see, it's much more. It's faster. He was younger, and at the same time, at that period of time, he also wasn't breaking records. This Max Holloway is breaking striking records. Against Calvin Kattar, he destroyed it. Against Ortega, he set it, and then he beat his own record. And he still throws more than almost any other fighter you can even imagine. He throws a lot. and a lot of it will land. It's not strikes that are just mainly missing. A lot of it is landing, and he goes to the body, and you can see the flashes of when he destroyed Anthony Pettis against the cage, just absolutely melted him across it. You can see flashes of that against Justin Gaethje when he was able to hurt him. You saw flashes of that when he just tried to melt him against the cage, but you can't melt. It's really hard to melt a guy against Justin Gaethje. You have to hit him with something really hard to crack him or put him out of there. Like, what was it? The overhand right put him out. But there was 2 TKOs that he's had. Poirier, I would say he is a stronger hitter than Max, just with general punches. Max has to sit down. Max isn't the type of guy that sits down a lot of his punches, but when he does, he's capable of putting you out, as he's shown. Mm-hmm. He is more of he'll touch and go. And
Alvarez.
Yeah, Alvarez also. I think it was a knee that.
Yep, knee to the head.
Knee to the head dropped him. I think Max she's just gonna overwhelm him, and unless Topuria can deal with that type of style, which I haven't seen him go against. The last tall fighter we saw him go against really would be a tall striker would be Jai Herbert, and that would be someone who is at lightweight. Now we're fighting a Max who is bigger now. You're not fighting the featherweight Max. You're fighting someone with more muscle mass. So can he deal with that? And of course, the head kick. Everyone talks about can Topuria deal with a head kick. And although I haven't seen Max exactly knock someone down with the left high kick, I've seen him knock someone down with the right high kick, and that would be Volk. He was able to land a right high kick against Volk, who is, I would say, much more on the movement. Doesn't have the same high guard as Topuria has. But Max has the tools to set up those kicks, and he uses them a lot. He uses his kicks very well. Although I would not like to see him do the spinning kick this time. Although it worked well for Gaethje, I would not like to see it. I think he might get Shevchenko'd in the fact if he gets his back taken.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can see a hook landing. It's just I don't think that tool would be great for this fight.
The body lock is how Topuria. He's good at initiating his wrestling, his grappling with the body lock. I think he will come in with that. But let's talk specific tools. When I looked at the Zalal fight, Yusuf Zalal, which was a long time ago, that was Topuria's UFC debut, the Jai Herbert fight, and even the Bryce Mitchell fight, they used a lot of tools that Max uses to trouble Topuria. Zalal, his jab his movement and jab was troubling Topuria at times. Bryce Mitchell, he had teeps, he double jabbed. It was actually more competitive on the feet than it was on the ground when it came to Bryce Mitchell, partially because of how long Bryce Mitchell is. And the reason Jai Herbert was able to rock Topuria with that head kick is because Topuria sold out and didn't have the range yet. And he whiffed on a left hook and got caught while whiffing. That Topuria is going to have to get used to Max's range. Though Max is more hittable than a lot of guys, he will have to get used to that range. And when it comes to that will probably give up the first round, like he's done against a lot of people. I believe he gave up the first round against Bryce Mitchell. I know he got taken down at the end of the first round against Bryce Mitchell. I believe he even gave up the round in striking. He generally gives up the first round to get used to get his reads. He ends up giving up the first round.
Which is
it's
not a good
intentional.
strategy in title fights, as you've seen with Jan, you've seen with Cheeto. Those are the type of guys that'll wait. They'll take the L in the first round, which is never good, especially in 5-round fights recently.
Mm-hmm.
Like the judges haven't been great, and you want a clear round. And even sometimes when you have a clear round, it might not be a clear round to some people. And I think, how can Topuria handle whiffing? Can he handle whiffing a lot against a guy who will keep coming at you, and he can capitalize greatly on your whiffs and will try to make you gas? He is a very conserved type of fighter. He stays nice in the pocket, and he has those good hooks. He has a decent jab, but at the same time, he isn't as rangy. I don't want to say as rangy. His reach is the same as Max Holloway's.
Yep.
Volk has a longer reach. Volk was able to not only had to dash in, but also had longer arms to land those jabs. Topuria he's not the type of guy to dash in and out like that. He takes his slow, methodical approach, and that first round I think is going to be very key. Because if he backs up Max Holloway like he did Volk, and Volk didn't really do anything too meaningful, then that might be a telltale of the fight. When I was watching that first Volk fight, I was like, nope. Because that first round was completely, like, Topuria took almost no damage. Although he did get landed on more, there was nothing too crazy that happened. And he just pressured him until the point in the second round he figured it out, got to the cage, and the fight was over. But I think Max Holloway is too good against defense. Bryce Mitchell, for as long as he lasted, did dodge a couple of those hooks against defense. And I would say Max Holloway's just striking defense is much better on par when it comes to slipping, rolling than Bryce Mitchell's.
Though, again, Max is very hittable. I don't think this is going to come down to defense or on Max's part. When we look at the fights Max has had, who's beaten Max? Max has lost to Dustin Poirier early in his career, Conor McGregor early in his career, Volkanovski officially 3 times, but that's the second and first fight.
One.
Very close.
I'd give Volk the second. I would not give him in life I'd give Volk the first, would not give him in life the second, and then obviously the third was dead to rights.
Okay,
yeah, and the Dustin Poirier 2 fight, what we've seen in all of those, except the early career stuff and the Volk 3 fight, is Max is hard to force out of a fight, and he consistently comes back or he takes a lead. It's hard to not be competitive with Max Holloway. He makes you have to scrap with him. He makes you have to give rounds to him. He came back towards the end of the Poirier fight, that first Poirier fight, and Poirier is a volume striker. He has good cardio. Max came back, wore him out with body shots, and looked good towards the end of it. In the first Volk fight, Max came back towards the end. In the second Volk fight, Max started off very fast and kind of faded due to Volk's adjustments of using the grappling,
Yes.
which Topuria might be able to do. And the third Volk fight, Volk is one of the best game planners the sport has ever seen, and it took him 3 fights to actually figure Max out and force him out of a fight.
And in that second one, he got dropped twice. Once head kick, once by uppercut. So he had to work really hard to get there. And does Topuria have that game plan? As much as I hate to make this comparison because it was really sad, I think Topuria is going to have to let a little heat off. If he's going to survive those 5 rounds, he's going to have to be able to be okay with whiffing, and you can't whiff those power shots. They are tiring. If you whiff power shots constantly, which Max Holloway will make you do, even if you land, he will roll with it, and it's not going to be the cleanest land. So I think he's going to have to invest in the body, take slow pokes, but everyone's seen his combination. I'm sure Max Holloway's seen his combination. He's going to know how to deal with it, but you have to slow him down. I think he has to keep at that calf kick, land at the body, and if he's going to put him away, maybe he catches him first early, but I don't think that's the game plan he should take to this. I got to put him in. I think he has to be prepared for the 5-rounder because Max Holloway is not a guy that you can, as anyone has been able to put away in the first 2 rounds like that. It hasn't happened, which same thing with Volk, besides, I guess, the Makhachev fight. But in that same aspect, it's just, I don't see a way that he fights the way he's always fighting and just gets through it. I think he's going to have to do it like Tony Ferguson-Gaethje, where Gaethje made the adjustment and he took it down a bit on his power strikes. He started landing, and against a guy that's chinny, or you land, because if you're already that powerful, take it down a bit. You're still going to be really powerful, but you don't have to, not every punch has to be a knockout punch. And I think if he takes that adjustment, he could really take the fight in a different direction.
I think as far as like taking the fight to a 5-rounder, as I mentioned before, Max Holloway is good at setting the pace, and as you said, I don't think Ilia Topuria rushing in, as he said on Twitter he would, is his best route. He has to utilize all the tools he has, which is his excellent power, his excellent grappling, and his excellent kind of ability to set up those boxing sequences where you find that right hook that just syncs up perfectly, as we saw in the Volk fight, and we saw in the Bryce Mitchell fight, and we saw in the Jack Herbert fight. Because like you said, Topuria was able to come back against Jack Herbert. He got dropped, I believe, was it late first? And then he was able to come back and then just flush him out with another excellent set of boxing sequence.
It was early first where he got hit with, stunned, and then he used his grappling to kind of save himself in that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the sequences are when they start getting more tired and they remain stagnant on the cage. Volk wasn't tired, but he remained stagnant in the cage because he went for the clinch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Giant Herbert, that guy was a bit tired. As you see in the knockdown, he's literally like square and straight, and he got absolutely slept. And Bryce Mitchell, same kind of scenario. As soon as they end up,
He was gasping.
yes,
Yeah.
gasp. As soon as you end up parallel, you're gonna get dropped or you're gonna get thrown to the ground. And I don't think Max is a guy that you will rarely ever see parallel against the cage like that. He is always moving to a side, which in some aspects he can get caught with a hook. But when I really think about it, I haven't seen someone move into a Topuria hook like that. He's always just gone body, head, and because of those body shots, they either remain stagnant or not. But Max Holloway has taken those shots, and he's moved. He's always moved. Even when he fought Volk, he's always moved. That's why he's so tough to put away. Not the fact that he has a chin, but he is always moving.
And for people who are going to say, but Topuria took out Volk, there are levels to this. Volk shut Holloway out of the fight in the third match. Yeah, that is a completely different stylistic matchup there. Comparing Volk to or thinking that how Volk beat Max, Topuria is not going to do.
No,
because
MMA math does not work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Volk didn't. Volk had some advantages, some stylistic advantages, and some physical advantages and some adjustment advantages that he made to succeed in that third fight. Volk extremely fast. Those long arms that allow him to hit Max at a distance and duck out. His switch low kick and his just regular low kick, chopping Max's legs. The fact that Volk doesn't pressure, he's a guy who moves around the ring. We saw, I think in the Gaethje fight, Max has a plan for pressure, and that is to crash in and make it dirty, make it not clean. And I think when he went for when he eye poked Gaethje, he was going for an elbow there. When Max has knocked people out, it has been when those people have been coming forward and Max makes a car crash. Nearly knocked out Arnold Allen when Arnold Allen tried to go World War III on Max Holloway, as his corner said. Got dropped, saved by the bell at the end of the fight. He knocked out Justin Gaethje in those last 10 seconds. He knocked out Korean Zombie when Korean Zombie sold out to try to get Max out of there. That when someone has gone with that kind of pressure, Max does have a plan for that. We've just not seen anyone try that so consistently. Topuria is going to have to go through hell to get to Max, and Max is going to have to go through hell with Topuria, but it's not the way it's going to happen is not going to be like Volk versus Max 3, where Topuria is just outboxing Max from the outside. He's going to have to be in the pocket and at mid-range, and that's where Max shines the most, not at distance. Max is good at distance, but he's best at mid-range, and he's good in the pocket.
Yeah, and Topuria he's an in-fighter. He's not an out-fighter by any means necessary. So, like, the style is, like you say, completely different. And also, it's two different types of body types. Like, you have a short rugby guy with long arms versus a taller guy with actually not as long arms, which...
T-Rex arms.
Yeah, little T-Rex arms, as he calls them. But they have the same arm reach. So, it's a completely different... It's almost completely different in almost every aspect of how they're fighting. And they both excel in a certain area. I think that's the area that is going to dictate the fight. Who takes the fight better in fighting, or can Max Holloway capitalize better on outfighting, or mixing it up? I wouldn't say if he's outfighting the entire time, it might end up similar like Volk. Although he is taller, which works out extremely much in his favor, but I don't know if his reach is good enough on that also hand to be able to do so. But it is still the height advantage. But I think I'm gonna go with Max on this one, just because I can see definitely past. It is a close fight by all means necessary, and there's plenty of ways to victory. Like I can even see like Max trying to melt Topuria after he gets him tired, and then you have an Izzy Pereira situation. Although when he tried to melt Gaethje, he did come back off, wait for the hooks to come back, and then go back in. But at the same time, that it was Gaethje with a broken nose, and he was deteriorated. But Max only goes in those situations, so it's also iffy. But I think Max has too many tools. He's been there in the UFC since he was 20. He's practically seen it all.
That also means he's old in fight years. He has been.
Yes.
He's talked about how he's not, how he's just hitting his prime and so on. I think his prime ended in the Dustin Poirier fight, and that's why he's retooled his game to be a more pokey striker. His chin is still there, but I think it's diminishing over time. He's not as fast as he used to be. His cardio is still there, but maybe not as extreme as it used to be. He's retooled his game, and in some ways he's better for this matchup. I definitely think that retooled game is how he can win, but he's not in his prime. physically. Maybe technically he is, but the physicality is different.
I think on the physicality part, I would disagree with you on this one. I think within the last, was it 3 years, he's gotten, he's been more active. You've seen him more knockdowns, you've seen more knockouts from Max. I think as he hit that kind of, what ideally is the prime age of like 32, 33 for UFC fighters, just in general, I think that now we see a new side of him, like as you mentioned, and that new side involves a lot more power than what Topuria expects. I think from what Topuria thinks Max Holloway is, as he sees the like you said, the pre-Dustin Poirier fight, the one like 2017, 2018, say when Max Holloway was on top of the world. This is not the same Max Holloway. That Max Holloway was more.
He was a pressure fighter.
Yeah,
he was a flood you with volume guy. He was a heavy boxer. He's a more diverse kickboxer. You look at the Gaethje fight; it's almost even dead on head strikes, body strikes, leg kicks. It's almost even. And one thing that was shown in the Gaethje fight that I really like against Topuria is a switch body kick. He used that very consistently, and I think that is a way he could set up the a switch head kick to Topuria. But continue.
But going off that, I don't believe that power will knock out Topuria. I don't think this fight ends with Topuria getting knocked out at all. If Topuria does win, I do think it's going to be by TKO. And if it does not go to TKO, if it goes distance, Max Holloway wins. That is the way I see it. If I fence early, I don't believe Max Holloway wins this. I don't think he has the tools to really end this fight early at all. Topuria just shows he's very resilient. He's very scrappy. He knows how to kind of recover real quick, real fast. Like you said, in the Volk fight in the first round, Volk technically did win on scorecard. He was managing the pace, backing up, and Topuria, I think, what I understand, he saw that. He saw that Volk was very heavy on the back foot. He was against Makhachev in the second fight. Very, very loose on the back foot, very flat-footed, and that's how he was able to catch him up against the wall. I don't think Max Holloway will be the same thing, but Topuria, he's an exciting guy. He has a lot of dangerous tools with him. You can never know what he's going to bring. Maybe we'll see a takedown. I don't think it'll be successful, but we might see a takedown.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think even just the fact that he's a jiu-jitsu fighter, jiu-jitsu fighters usually aren't the greatest at getting those takedowns. You said he goes to the body lock. He's not going to shoot a double leg. And he has panic shot, which is completely different. You're not setting it up. It's the one against Jai Herbert where he got rocked and then Jai Herbert went in, and then it's just a common mistake that most strikers make when they come to panic wrestling. But I don't see him going for like a double leg. I see him go for a body lock, but at the same time he shines so well in the pocket against the cage, where I think he's just going to throw his combination. That's where he puts people away. And I do agree that I don't see Max putting away in the starting early rounds. He's only been able to knock someone out cold with that overhand right, and I don't see a taller guy using that overhand right to knock someone out against a shorter guy who is really good in the pocket. I think that'd probably be a mistake to try to go for that type of attack and punch. And even if he does knock him down, I think because we haven't seen that jiu-jitsu question, we know jiu-jitsu is good. We haven't seen at the high level yet because MMA jiu-jitsu versus everything else is different. Does he knock him down, or do you have a Charles Oliveira situation where he doesn't go to the ground because he knows he's good there? It's a question that no one knows. Does he take that risk? I don't think he takes that risk. I think he lets him up.
To sum up my opinion on the fight, Topuria has two ways to victory. Either he fights similar to how he did against Josh Emmett, where he stays defensively sound. He uses his striking to punish Max when Max is trying to hit him, and he uses that power to control the pace. Because we have seen against Yair Rodriguez and against Dustin Poirier, Max can be tamed if you throw with him and if you have power. But I don't think that's Topuria's best chance at victory, especially against the modern Max Holloway, partially due to the fact that Max is just taller than him. The way I think Topuria could, the best way I think Topuria could win this is by controlling the pace with his grappling, by winning some striking exchanges, and then either forcing Max up against the cage or onto the ground to stall out and keep the pace in a way that he can control. With Max, the way he wins is he either does what he did against Justin Gaethje, which is pick at Topuria from afar and win the distance and mid-range striking match, and disrupt the pocket by crashing in and making it more dirty and not clean for Topuria to land his shots. Or, if that doesn't work, Max can, like he tried in the third Volk fight but failed to do for a number of reasons, force vintage Max Holloway out of himself, force to try to put some pace on Topuria and go for him. That is another way Max could, if Topuria is able to get him out of the fight, like in that first phase, in that pokey Max Holloway phase, Max could switch to that and then show Topuria a new thing that Topuria has to adjust to and outpace Topuria that way, similar to how he beat Jose Aldo, who I feel without is like Topuria, but without the pressure. He doesn't have the same pressure that Topuria brings.
I think if Topuria really goes out there and points to the cage in the first 10 seconds, I think that ups the chance of him losing.
Yeah.
I think that shows his mindset of, I'm going to take you out really early on. And although he said he had respect for Volk and everything, I have no idea how he took that fight. But if he goes there, points there, he is going to throw bombs. And Max Holloway's going to meet you there either way. He might not do what he did with Gaethje, which is give him a chance, but he'll poke you. Now, if he pokes you, are you throwing a bomb right after? Because you know he's going to strike.
Mm-hmm.
You know he's not going to go in for a double leg. I think not only that, his own cockiness might throw him off his own game. And it's, as usual, I think I just have to go with Max Holloway. I can't see it. I can see it, but at the same time, my gut tells me every way to go to this way in any type of fashion. Like, he can land the hook, but what else after the hook? Max Holloway's been there with plenty of guys who know good jiu-jitsu. He's been in there with Brian Ortega, and he's been in there with like guys like Frankie Edgar, short guys, pressure guys. Frankie Edgar might have the same boxing as Ilia Topuria has, but he definitely has an unrelenting type of pressure. And I just think that's what I got to go with the main event, because those guys like Yair, like Dustin Poirier, they were able to really tame Max, as you would say, which Max did still win that Yair fight.
Mm-hmm.
They were as tall as him and longer reach. They were able to poke him as well.
And faster.
Yes, I don't think Topuria's going to have the ability to poke Max. Like, I don't see that happening. He's not the type of outside fighter to do it, and I don't think he has the physical capabilities to do it.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. Your pick, Aaron?
I think Max Holloway. I am very biased, but like I said again, this is very 50-50. If I have to go Max Holloway, I say 60-40 Max Holloway. I think just through all the tools Max Holloway has, he is able to kind of maintain Topuria from kind of reaching his distance and disrupting that boxing flow. That's something we've seen a lot from Max Holloway throughout the years, how he's able to kind of disrupt the flow of their opponents. I know we saw some losses coming from a third Volk fight, but that's Volk who has kind of, like you said, adjusted to Max Holloway. And stylistically, this is a nightmare matchup for Topuria. This is as bad as it gets in the featherweights. No one at featherweight can really kind of stop, I think, Topuria's charge forward, like his jab to the body, then cross to the body, then hook combo. I don't see anybody really being able to disrupt that besides Max Holloway, because Max Holloway understands those patterns. He's going to be able to catch him with that cross. He's going to be able to catch him with that jab moving backwards.
For me, it all depends on how Topuria fights, and I think this will be a fight of maturity, whether it's Topuria shows his immaturity and tries to just go in there and knock Max out and falters because of that, or he shows his maturity and really mixes up his game and is able to tame Max with both power and wrestling. If Topuria comes in a mature champion, I expect him to win, but I don't think he will. Given everything he's said, him wanting to point to the ground and fight with Max, him getting a fake BMF belt, he's coming in with something to prove. And that is an immature mindset. And Max, at least in his mind, in Max's mind, he's proved everything he's needed to prove. He's coming in to win, not to prove that he's the best boxer, that he's the best this or that. He's only coming in to prove he's the best featherweight. And I think that's going to lead to him winning. So I'm picking Max.
If Ilia Topuria does everything he says he's going to do on Twitter, that is just going to show that there's levels to this game. Because you as a champion, you have to understand when you're selling a fight or when you're actually in the fight. Now saying like buying a BMF belt, saying I'm going in the first 10 seconds, I'm gonna knock you out in the first round. That is all great ways to sell a fight. I'm sure Dana White loves that stuff, because this is really kind of fueling up the beef. But that is not the way a champion behaves. That is not the way a champion should walk into the fight. He knows Max Holloway, stands and bangs. He knows that Max Holloway territory. He knows as the person who made that famous. He's trying to take that away from him. And I think if he's actually genuine about that will bite him in the ass.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, he did the same sort of thing with Volk. He posed with the featherweight belt before getting it. He made the documentary about himself before winning the fight. He almost in the same McGregor aspects, although I think McGregor's antics were definitely on par worse. It is double-edged because McGregor now has lost. People are taking him less seriously. If he does lose, he is now going to be taken less seriously. Although he's still a great fighter in every aspect, but now people are like, oh, you're just overconfident. You couldn't pull it off. And then you just, now you only have your right hand. If you don't have your right hand, you're nothing. Kind of like how Kevin Holland went through that spree, and it was 2020. Five people, 1-2. But once he started losing, it's just the 1-2. If you get past the 1-2, you're done. It's a double-edged sword when you're that confident in your abilities and you speak it so well.
So, we're all picking Max Holloway?
Yeah, it's a Max Holloway.
All right.
Yep, and then what is it? Abu Dhabi. So it's Khamzat Chimaev, who I guess that's the best place for him to fight for a home crowd advantage.
Has he fought anywhere else since COVID?
I do not think so. I mean, where did he fight Usman at? He fought Usman, I'm pretty sure somewhere else. Usman was that was Makhachev Volkanovski too, which was in Abu Dhabi. Yeah, I don't think so.
Kevin Holland?
Let's see. Kevin Holland was Diaz versus Ferguson. That was Las Vegas.
Okay, so he hasn't fought in so long. He's been so inactive.
Yeah, he hasn't fought in so long. So that's the co-main event. 5 rounds. Whittaker versus Khamzat Chimaev, and I don't see him winning that fight. I mean, it's been a long time out, even though he is the favorite. I don't see him winning that fight. He last fought Usman. That's an old Usman.
On was it 2 weeks' notice?
Yeah, an old Usman on 2 weeks' notice. Did what he does in the first round. You know, he takes him down, breaks him down, but could not get the finish for the life of him. And then just basically had a striking match with the wrestler for the 2 extra last rounds.
Struggled extremely in those 2 rounds. Just barely got it done. Many people calling a robbery. At least the way I see this fight, it's a very similar dynamic to Dricus du Plessis versus Robert Whittaker, where you have this extremely talented physical specimen in Khamzat Chimaev fighting the old, more battle-worn, battle-tested Robert Whittaker. The difference is Chimaev has obviously more technically correct striking, but might not have the same never say die attitude that Dricus does, the same intensity that he is bringing throughout the fight, and not just the first round. Plus, Dricus has been ridiculously active, or at least ridiculously active in comparison to Chimaev. Chimaev has the possibility of coming in with ring rust or the effects of the many medical issues he has had outside of the ring, and the grappling difference. That is where Dricus probably has his best skill set, but that's also Chimaev has been unbelievably dominant in the grappling since he came in, and Dricus has suplexed his opponent on top of himself before. And Dricus managed to get Robert Whittaker to the ground. So that was through a head and arm throw, something that Robert Whittaker isn't used to, and something that Chimaev doesn't really do.
Yeah, not at all. And I think Dricus is just such a big guy, even for middleweight. He is huge, and I don't think that strength is gonna carry for Khamzat. Khamzat has that strength and that pure just wrestling mentality. He's not gonna go for those throws that you'd see Dricus doing. And Dricus, even in his wrestling, it is just odd. Everything he does is odd. And Khamzat isn't odd in his approach. His wrestling is clean wrestling. His striking, I don't want to say it's the cleanest striking you'll ever see, but it is not the offbeat version that Dricus has. And as he gets tired throughout the Usman fight, you see how he got more success with basic striking, and I think Whittaker can capitalize that so easily. The only hard part is Whittaker is just he's a karate style dash in, dash out type of guy, and that dash in, dash out type of style, if you can time takedowns on those dashing in, that can really benefit him. But I also like you said, the illnesses. I don't know how well Khamzat can really handle a 5-round fight. Let's say even if he learns how to capitalize on those dashing in and out, can he make that to the 3rd round? Can he make that to the 4th and the 5th? I don't think his striking will be able to hold up long enough when he gets tired to really fend off Robert Whittaker in those late rounds.
The thing is, does it get to those late rounds? Robert Whittaker has proven pretty consistently to be chinny. Cannonier almost got him out of there, and that was a Robert Whittaker a few years ago. Israel Adesanya knocked him out, though that was the prime Israel Adesanya. He also knocked him down in their second fight, almost finished him there. And he was knocked down by a jab against Dricus and put on Queer Street with that one, and then finished immediately after. Can Robert Whittaker survive those early rounds? And if he can, the odds should switch drastically. First 2 rounds, odds should probably lean towards Chimaev. Once Robert Whittaker gets out of that second round, it should just be completely switch to Robert Whittaker, though Chimaev still has ridiculous power in his hands, able to one-shot Gerald Meerschaert at middleweight. But Gerald Meerschaert's not on the
that's
level.
Not exactly the greatest representation. I mean, like, he knocked out, I think it was the last guy that Robert Whittaker fought in, like, a regional scene, like, a long time ago. But
Liskarov.
Yes, and Robert Whittaker, although he can be chinny at the same time, I think it's a gamble. Because he did get knocked down by the jab and couldn't recover. Dricus, big guy. But he also took a spinning mule kick by Paulo Costa to the face and was able to recover. So I think it all depends on the timing. And if he does land that big shot that Khamzat Chimaev is known for, will he be able to capitalize at Dricus? Well, I think the best bet would probably be to mix in the wrestling. I don't see, like, Robert Whittaker's a guy that's, like, fought 10 rounds with Romero, an Olympic-level wrestler who was huge, like, brick of a dude.
Probably the only fighter at middleweight who's ever been as just physically imposing as Dricus.
Yeah, and if you're talking about pure athleticism, which is what Khamzat is in that first round, I mean, like, Real Romero didn't have that just extreme pressure from the start. He was more composed, and then he'd explode, and Khamzat Chimaev is just on you from the starting bell. So it's a different type of athleticism, but it is still that overwhelming strength, and just a guy that is just built essentially different. But for Yoel Romero, he's built different across the entire 5 rounds. That guy's a brick throughout the entire thing.
Yep.
But Khamzat Chimaev has shown that he has cracks in the armor as the longer he goes.
Mm-hmm.
He gets even more beatable. And I think Robert Whittaker is a guy who can he knows that if he's going to win, the highest probability is in that first round. I think he can weather the storm. He doesn't have to win, just like how Dustin Poirier decided, which was bad for him in the Oliveira fight, to sit there and just chill and guard rather than giving his back like he did to Habib and ended up losing.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that same similar strategy of having a survival instinct on the ground versus trying to, like, give up a submission.
And also how Dustin Poirier treated the first round of BS against BSD, where he didn't sell out and go to war with BSD immediately. He waited, and BSD got tired and sloppy, and then Dustin Poirier capitalized and knocked him out. BSD is similar in the sense of he's comparable to Khamzat Chimaev in that he's just a big guy who's strong and physically imposing, but he's different as he obviously doesn't have the technical game of Chimaev. But it's an interesting parallel of the veteran waiting to survive the first 2 rounds. And if it wasn't for the such a long layoff that Chimaev has consistently had and all of the medical issues he's had, I would probably pick Chimaev. But I feel like I can't pick Chimaev with those issues and asterisks there. I have to go with the more proven veteran fighter in Robert Whittaker, who has survived large, big guys like Cannonier before, like Costa, who's survived them and gone on to dominate afterwards. And like it was mentioned before, this is a 5-round fight. In those fights, it was 3 rounds, and Robert Whittaker managed to keep it all together. And Khamzat Chimaev has shown it's hard for him to keep it all together in 3 rounds. How's he going to do over 5?
Yeah, like, I'm going to have to agree with you there. Robert Whittaker is definitely going to be my pick. It's a 5-round fight. If it was 3 rounds, then maybe I'd be, like, more on the teeter-totter of who wins the first 2. But it's a 5-round fight, and stylistically, Robert Whittaker's had plenty of 5-round fights. Khamzat Chimaev has not had plenty of 5-round fights. I don't know how he's going to feel once he gets to that 4th to that 5th, or even like how he's gonna feel towards the late of the third. And Whittaker knows how to deal with that style of fight. It's completely different when you're fighting from 15 to 25 minutes. You take a completely different strategy, and will Khamzat be able to use that strategy? I just don't think so. I think it's very possible that he can get a finish in maybe the early rounds, but I don't see him ragdolling Whittaker in the way that he'd need to in those first rounds to get that done.
Yeah, completely agree. Should we move on to the next fight?
Yeah.
So the next fight on the card is Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. The Ankalaev, whose last defeat came from failing the human IQ test that is Paul Craig, and despite dominating him for the majority of the fight, getting choked out and submitted in the last seconds of the fight. And since then, he's gone unbeaten, which has been through... how many fights has it been since he's been defeated?
I have to remember that. So it was Paul Craig, which I actually ended up rewatching just to see how that loss really went. And when he locks up that triangle, like there's like no defense at all. He just kind of stayed there, which is like really, like as you said, failing the human IQ test. He didn't try to posture up. He didn't try to move. He wasn't like panicking to try to get out. He just kind of sat in that triangle, and it just like it made no actual sense. So the last time he lost was in 2018, March 17th, versus Paul Craig. So he's had, let's see, what?
So it's been 6 years since he has last tasted defeat.
Besides the no contest and then draw, the no contest being Johnny Walker, and then failing the IQ test of not kneeing your opponent when you're not supposed to knee your opponent, which, sometimes dumb rule, but debate how you will.
And then deciding not to wrestle Jan Blachowicz, who had just been dominated on the ground by Glover Teixeira, until his legs were completely destroyed.
They were toast. And even then, like, it was a really close fight. So, like, it's just some people didn't think it should have been a draw in the first place, but then you have to make the statement. And they definitely didn't make the statement because neither of them got a chance to fight for the belt after that. And they're both, I think, would be in the same position. They both have really good spots and resumes. Like, he had, Jan Blachowicz had it wasn't a split decision, but he had a good showing against Pereira. Like, it was close. But they're both in just really weird spots, title picture-wise, But I think Muhammad Ankalaev put himself there with the only really wanting to fight in Abu Dhabi, and now he got the chance versus Alexander Rakic, which I think he has in the bag. I don't see how Alexander Rakic really can take him out.
Rakic, the perennial contender, a man who has floated or stayed in the top 5, but is now on a 2-loss skid. The single decision machine at light heavyweight. The question is ultimately, does the man with rocks for brains beat the man with rock in his name? The Rakic, when it comes to his abilities, he's kind of just a well-rounded striker with some grappling. He doesn't, like I mentioned before, he is the decision machine at light heavyweight. He does not have amazing power. He was able to hurt Yuri in some cases, but that's Yuri who runs in with his chin and face directly into shots.
In the air.
Yeah.
And he's on, not only is it a 2-fight losing streak, it's like TKO. He's been TKO'd in both. He got TKO'd against Yuri, he got TKO'd against Blachowicz.
With Blachowicz, the fight was turning to his side seemingly in that the momentum was turning to his side until his legs blew out. But you have to attribute that to the Blachowicz leg kicks. That though Rakic was checking, man has shins of steel. He went against Alex Pereira.
Yeah. And then it was like it was nothing. He really treated it like it was nothing.
Yep. Leg kicks, they just added points per Pereira. They didn't disable Blachowicz like they've done to so many other opponents. Yeah. So the man just he's built like a rock.
And even if you take that as let's call it a fluke win, because let's just say his knee blew out. His last win was 2021 against Santos, and it was a unanimous decision. Like, he hasn't had anything crazy statement-wise since that one highlight head kick of, let's see, who was that? And it was a while ago, too. I think it was Jimmy Manawa in 2019.
Yeah. And Thiago Santos isn't even in the UFC, and his last loss was against Hill, who, though won the title, won it off of the Glover Teixeira, basically by being able to stop the grappling. That's really
Stop the grappling, spammed head kicks until eventually the guard couldn't handle it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, essentially, that's how you'd beat the old Glover Teixeira. But at the same time, it's not exactly. I mean, I can't really say the greatest feat because he did choke out Jan. But at the same time, like he hasn't shown anything since. Like there's not really great things to Racic's resume that really stands out as something that can really pose a threat. I mean, he has, like you said, he's a well-rounded striker. I feel like if he's going to make it, he has to make it at a distance. Keep his distance. I'm pretty sure he has the reach advantage. Yeah, he does. So just keep his distance. Kind of just try to pick him apart, set up traps as much as possible. But then Ankalaev is just, I would classify him as like a pressure striker. He goes in, he kind of suffers. That's how he absolutely dropped Johnny Walker against the cage, which Johnny Walker has known is you get him against the cage, you can flatline him as Hill did.
Yeah, and Uzdemir did it recently as well.
Yeah, so it's something that is just I can't see Rakic setting up enough traps or being smart enough to know when he hurts someone to go after it, like how we did with Yuri, and that's when hands like completely dropped. Muhammad Ankalaev doesn't fight in that style of having his hands dropped like that. They're much higher. And even then, there's now the takedown threat you have to deal with. It's just, I think it's too much for him to handle.
And Ankalaev has extremely fast hands. He's not the best boxer, but if you come at him, he is going to counter you extremely quickly, blazing hand speed with wide hooks. And one of Rakic's main attacks is leg kicks, and I could see Ankalaev countering those leg kicks by blitzing in with his hooks and knocking down Rakic.
True. And at the same time, I can see him just doing nothing about those leg kicks.
Absolutely.
But then will Rakic just even decide to keep going there? Does he know to just keep on attacking that weakness? Because at certain points in time, like the Yuri fight, because that's the last example, he'll land something nice and then just completely forget about it. And it's infuriating to watch.
Yeah, no. Light heavyweight is the division of frustration. With people like Jamal Hill, with amazing athletes and amazing talents like Yuri, who consistently just do bizarre stuff. It's a division of frustration, and these two fighters are some of the most frustrating fighters because Ankalaev, despite people have been predicting Ankalaev is going to be champion for years, and Alex Pereira just randomly moves up and speed runs to the championship while Ankalaev has been building to it for 4 years. And Rakic, he was on a good trajectory, but then he lost to Jan Blachowicz and really hasn't done anything since besides losing again to Yuri Prochaska in an okay fight.
Yeah, I mean, like, it wasn't the greatest thing to ever see in the world. Like, hence why Dana just said, you know what, screw it. Let's throw Glover. I think it was Glover and it was Hill, right? Yeah, let's throw them back up in there for the title because why not? It was just not the most impressive performance. And I know that this fight's gonna be it's gonna be a fun fight. I think for my pick is just gonna be Muhammad Ankalaev. Like it just makes the most sense to me. He's like a negative 380 favorite for a reason. And the main thing is just don't knee him in the face when he's a grounded opponent and just make smart decisions. I think his striking is good enough to be able to handle it on his own with the striking, and I think he would mix it up. The only problem is he could get caught in the striking. Although ideally, I don't see it, but he could because he's on that striking high of saying I'm just going to destroy Alex Pereira just by striking, which is the most ridiculous statement I think someone can make. But who knows? Maybe he's pulling a Jan Blachowicz who said he was also going to strike Pereira and then
wrestled him.
Wrestled him as like 9 seconds in. Mm-hmm. So like he could be calling a bluff. That's what I'm hoping, but that's still my pick regardless. Is going to be Ankalaev.
Ultimately, in my opinion, it's Ankalaev's fight to lose. I could see him coming in reckless, trying to make a statement, and that's how he gets caught. But he also seems like the type of person who's going to be like, I'm going to be undeniable. And by being undeniable, just winning. He means winning. And if winning is his top priority, I expect him to succeed in that against Rakic, who is good, but really not in that top-tier level at light heavyweight.
Yeah, he's he just had, I think, a couple of highlights, and then you have your unanimous decision. The highlights being in 2019, which is a far cry from now, but he just had his unanimous decisions. He hasn't had anything that's really like put him out there against the fans, and when he's had the chance to show out, he has fallen short. Whether it's the knee or getting dusted by Yuri, and he did good, and then he just got beat across the cage for the finishing sequence.
Yep.
And that is not the greatest image you want of yourself when you're coming into your next fight, because you're only, like, to the fans and like everyone else, you're only as good as your last fight. So if your last fight you see someone just beating you across and you're like flopping across the octagon, I can't see it.
The next fight we have to cover is Dan Ige versus Lerone Murphy.
I am big on Ige for this one, even though he is the underdog and Lerone Murphy is 14-0. I just, after the, what is it, 4 minutes? Not 4, it's 4 hours notice. After the 4 hours notice, going in and just absolutely just going to town with a guy in Diego Lopez and just making it a war. It's like he should, to many people, not have even lasted in that fight, which kind of took Diego Lopez's stock down a little bit on being a world beater. But Lerone Murphy is also 14-0, had an absolute just war with Edson Barboza. But then at the same time, Edson Barboza was clipping him just off of like practical slipping from left to right before strikes were even thrown and landing back and forth. And I just see Dan Ige being the small, shorter guy, dirty boxing his way. And I can see him landing that knockout punch like he did with Andre Fili, absolutely slapping him. It's completely different guys, but I can see it. He's a nice guy with a hard chin, and I can see him getting past just the undefeated fighter. And though they both had wars, I don't think Lerone Murphy has like the tools. I mean, he does have the tools. I just can't see him knocking out Dan Ige.
In my view, Lerone Murphy, the fight comes down to this. Dan Ige is best when he's pressuring someone and blitzing in with hooks. When he is able to get someone against the cage, throw his overhand like he did against Fili, where he countered the jab with that by blitzing in with that hook and just murking Fili. Lerone Murphy, similarly, what he showed in the Edson Barboza fight is that he has a really good jab, like Andre Fili. Andre Fili has a really good jab, and Lerone Murphy used that jab to control the striking against Edson Barboza, but Dan Ige is a lot more, not explosive, but he covers distance better than Edson. Edson likes a at-range striking match, while Ige wants to be in your face, and I don't think we've seen Lerone Murphy in a fight where he's had to deal with someone who's trying to be like constantly in his face that's as good as Dan Ige. Like you said, Ige has a chin. Murphy couldn't take out Barboza despite beating him down for 5 rounds. He's not going to take out Ige, almost certainly.
Yeah, and then got rocked himself, I think, on the usual Barboza spinning kicks, I believe it was.
And an up kick in the first round.
Yeah, so it's... And these combinations start getting a bit more predictable as the fight goes on. I think he was just going like 1-1-2, or maybe like a 1-1 exaggerated right hook. And I don't see Ige compromising enough. Like I could see him capitalizing on that so easily. And I know that as the shorter guy, you're almost used to fighting those taller guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lerone Murphy just had a battle with someone who's around the same size, and they're just picking apart from the outside. Like you said, I don't think he's going to be able to deal with the inside pressure of Ige. Although he has had a couple of good, he had that one good knee knockout, but that was off a takedown. So if he can use and modify those knees to someone pressuring inside, which is dirty boxing, maybe I can see him getting it done. But I think he's just more likely to just try to keep at distance, which Ige knows how to cover that distance.
Ige does know how to cover that distance, and that's really the key. Can Ige counter Lerone Murphy's jab similarly to how he countered Fili's jab, and will he knock him out? Because if this is a prolonged striking match, I do think Lerone Murphy will win a decision. But my expectation is that Ige is going to blitz through the jab and knock Murphy out, or hurt him so bad that he really can't come back into the fight. That is my ultimate expectation for this fight.
I think after the Diego Lopez fight, we saw with Dan how he's able to kind of overcome adversity. Personally, I saw a lot of, I guess, new things from him in that fight. Although I mean, he was what, I think 3 hours last
4 hours, yeah.
4 hours late call. So it could have just been like some stuff that he wasn't really planning on, and isn't really keeping. But I think in that fight, he kind of showed me that he can't compete with the top dogs just yet, because I think he's not there yet. But as far as kind of overcoming that, say that mid to low top rankings, I think that as of right now, he just has everything to beat them all.
Yeah, and I think he's gone through a lot of people. He's had a unanimous decision loss to Calvin Kattar, and Calvin Kattar is like a bombing of a boxer. Like, he has power. So does Diego Lopez. They both have power, and I would say Calvin Kattar definitely is more cleaner. He's more on the ranging of like 1-2s, and I think having been through that fight with Calvin Kattar, I think that helps him a lot for this Tyrone Murphy fight, because he knows what like a cleaner striker is and a distant striker is. And having gone through that loss, I'm sure he's taken the precautions to now even approach this fight better, which I think he did for the Diego Lopez fight, who isn't as clean a striker as Calvin Kattar, but still has insane power in his hands and able to take that and then land his own strikes. And towards the end of the fight, even, what would you say, he could have finished it when he started hurting Diego as he started to gas out.
Yep. And I looked at their shared opponent in Edson Barboza. Ige fought a more prime Edson Barboza, and Edson managed to hurt Ige in that fight. But Ige, I believe, won that fight against Edson, and he did it through pressuring Edson, hurting Edson at times, making it dirty, and that's what I expect him to do against Lerone Murphy. Edson, though, does not have the boxing that Lerone Murphy has, does have a similar frame and is a technical kickboxer similar to Lerone Murphy. The other thing is, when Ige has lost, convincingly lost, it has not been against strikers. It has been against wrestlers. It has been against Bryce Mitchell or Movsar Evloev, the people who can take him down and hold him down. I'm not sure. Lerone Murphy is well-rounded. He is a good wrestler. But is he going to use that, and can he use that against Ige? And again, will he survive the power? Ige hurt Bryce Mitchell, and that fight was, though it was convincing in a sense, it was still close. Ige has a tendency, when he's fighting the top, to make fights close, and that is not really something you want if you're Lerone Murphy, who's trying to have a here I am performance.
Yeah, you want a statement if you're 14, to make that 15, to really stand out in the featherweight division, which is kind of stacked. And at the same time, like, can you take down the shorter guy? Taking down a shorter guy is always going to be harder when you're that lengthy guy. And I don't think he has the wrestling chops to be able to really maneuver around that. And even then, a pressure boxer at that who's good inside, can you really make those adjustments? And I don't think he'll even try to in that matter. I think he's more than confident in his own self to either try to outbox him throughout the course of the 3 rounds or just stay on the outside. I can see him trying to mix it up. I just can't see him being so effective in that area.
I do still think that Lerone Murphy has a chance to win, though, because he still is an exciting prospect. Like you said, Sergio, he's very well-rounded, and I think his way of winning is just to stay outside the pocket, kind of just work around the octagon and making sure to kind of keep himself within reach while, kind of like how Shafkat does, just managing distance very well.
Mm-hmm. I agree to an extent. Like I said, if it's a drawn-out, long striking match, goes the full 3 rounds, then I think Lerone Murphy has the better chance of winning. I just expect, with Lerone Murphy getting rocked against Edson, though Edson's obviously a powerhouse, especially at this weight class, but with him getting rocked, he's fighting another powerhouse, another dangerous guy, and Dan Ige, who's completely different, and I expect Ige to take him out. I'm ultimately picking Ige.
I'll pick Ige as well, although I can see, like, I'm not saying Lerone Murphy has no chance to win. I can see him definitely winning this fight in many possible ways and fashion, but to do so, he'd have to stay clean. And after his last fight being, I would say, a barn burner, you can see that that's a possible route. And after seeing Dan Ige's last fight, you compare both the two. If that sits you, because Dan Ige is a hard guy to put away. That's just a fact. So unless he can stay clean throughout the entirety of it, which I've seen the course of what was a 5-round fight, this is gonna be 3 rounds. So maybe that will taking a better effect because he's not going to be as gassed. But if Dan Ige can put on that pressure to really break him down, to once he gets to those tiring aspects of where his striking starts wearing down, it's very possible. And Dan Ige's the guy who's going to put the pressure. He's not going to sit back, relax, and kind of set up things. He doesn't have the time to. So I think if Lerone Murphy can stay clean, by all means, he's going to take the decision win, or maybe even put him away. But I just think Dan Ige is going to put it on him, especially after his last 4-hour showing, which really put his name out there in the hat. I think he's going to be on a roll for this one.
I agree. I think he is coming into this fight on a better streak here, and I'll personally have him 7 out of 10 times winning this one as well.
I may be a little more cautious. I would probably put 6 out of 10. But again, I'm going with Ige. He's damn near immortal, hard to put away. And the only time I've seen Dan Ige really respect and keep the distance and kind of not charge in is when he's really respected someone's power.
Yeah, like Josh Emmett, for example.
Josh Emmett, Calvin Kattar, really hard punchers. And I don't think Lerone Murphy is that, considering he couldn't put away an out-of-prime chinny Edson Barboza.
Although he did get rocked early on, which will put your lights on and everything. But yeah, I think Dan Ige is he's going to be that guy for this one. And then I guess we can
What are we? Do we want to cover the Shira Bullet versus?
I mean, that'll take like 2 minutes. Bullet, I have him losing the fight. I'm gonna go with Petrosyan just for the fact of basic wrestling beats the Bullet like 10 out of 10. Basic wrestling, and if you have decent enough striking, he hasn't been able to put anyone like away really well. Unless besides the one guy who was so tired, I'm pretty sure you could have thrown in like a flyweight in there, and he would have been fine. I just don't see him. I don't see him getting far. Even let's say he somehow gets through this fight, I don't see him getting far. Petrosyan's been in there with some crazy people. He's been in there with Gregory Rodriguez, who had a knee to the face.
Wait, was he in there with Gregory Rodriguez?
He won a split decision against Gregory Rodriguez. It was one of his first fights. And as everyone knows, Gregory Rodriguez had the nastiest knee to the face and came back and won it. He's only coming off a loss, as in a submission against the guy who submitted 3 people in a row on a good win streak.
Who's also one of the best grapplers was one of the best grapplers in the world, Rodolfo Vieira.
Yeah, so it's not even. I don't see him having any type of tool bag, and it's a Muay Thai. Petrosyan's a Muay Thai style of striking, which is they love checking kicks. They will go toe to toe in their chinny. Not chinny, reverse that. I just don't see him winning this fight. I don't know why this is even on the main card.
I think they're just trying to sell Sharabutin.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, as we saw the first fight, I forgot who his debut was, but once he got taken down, he was struggling.
Bruno Silva.
Huh?
Bruno Silva was his debut.
Silva. Once he got taken down, he fought demons to get back up. It was almost impossible for him.
Yeah,
and
it was extremely bad. Like the grappling is 0. It is 0, and his striking isn't good enough to really separate himself in that division.
He is the opposite of Topuria in striking, I think, but just to a worse degree. His kicking is flary, it's fun to watch, but is it really
effective?
Yeah, is it really effective? I don't think so.
No.
I think people like his acrobatic style is only really fashionable if you have a certain amount of skill, such as Zabit. Like Zabit, I feel like he was the only real person that was able to pull off the acrobatic style. Even Michel Pereira, he's trying that, and he just got killed by Fluffy.
And even with Zabit, he was able to wrestle.
Yeah.
He had every single tool in the box he could. So he could be forward, be flashy, because he knew everything else. You can't just be flashy in just one thing. It's not going to go well. You need to have something else. Even Alex Pereira took down Israel Adesanya. Although he is known for that one beautiful toolkit that he has, he's been able to survive in those scenarios. I don't see him getting that far at all.
Yeah, I think Petrosyan being like a plus 130 for betting odds is just a complete steal for people. I don't see him losing this.
I'm going to be the one dissenting voice here and say Shira Bullet will win, though I still think he's a fraud.
Okay. At least we get the fraud out. Yeah.
I don't think he's that good. I think the UFC is picking fights specifically for him to win. I think they put Petrosyan there to lose to him. I think Petrosyan's going to try, but I don't necessarily think he's going to go for like takedowns or he's going to really go for the wrestling. I think he's going to try to beat Shira Bullet in striking so he can have a hype train derailed moment and get into the rankings. And I think Shira Bullet might be able to win the first 2 rounds. off of just point striking essentially. And if he does get taken down, he won the I believe he won the round against Bruno Silva when he got taken down by just spamming elbows from the bottom. He, like you said, he fought demons, and he used that energy to attack Bruno Silva.
True, and we are in Abu Dhabi, so if it goes down to the scorecards, I mean,
Oh yeah.
we know where they're gonna favor. But at the same time, Petrosyan's been there with great people. He's been there against.
He beat Christian Leroy Duncan.
And he's been there with Kylo Braulio. I can't say his name, but fighting nerds. And that guy has shown he just absolutely. I don't want to say absolutely mob Cannonier, but he's been in there with great guys.
He won a war against
so,
Cannonier.
And he didn't even Braulio wasn't even able to put him away either. So he's been in there with. It's not like he's been destroyed by cans. He's been in there with good people, and I can't say the same for the Bullet.
Yeah, and his cardio is very questionable. Both his fights, he was gassing out at the very end of the first.
So even if he does, let's say he was able to point strike the first two, which I think Petrosyan is looking at this as a cash cow. This is his ticket to really put his name back in the hat. But in the same time, there's two ways people go about that: winning at all costs or winning flashily. And I think he can do either. I don't see the Bullet putting him away with anything. He hasn't shown us anywhere to be able to finish a fight besides when a guy is absolutely half dead. I can see him winning, but I give it 70-30.
I think Petrosyan is gonna win confidently. I don't know. I don't think it's 6 to 10. I think a 7.5 out of 10. But my problem is the UFC is really pushing to kind of sell these guys. This card itself is just big on Muslim fighters, Sharabuddin, Orobai. I know that they have Rinat Fakhretdinov. They had Ruziboyev as well from Uzbekistan. They're kind of just amping up these Muslim fighters to send out. And if that's what they're really doing, I honestly it might just be Sharabuddin winning by a steal. Just winning.
That's
by
the only way I can see him winning the fight is by maybe either an actual decision or a stolen decision. I don't see him finishing him. I don't see him doing almost anything else. He's not going to grapple. That's beyond putting in everything else. Petrosyan has gone for takedowns. He has. So he has the ability to do it. And I think that would be the smart thing to do. Will he do it? I don't know. Do I think he should do it? 100%. But I doubt that the Bullets be able to keep it just a little point clean fight the entire time.
I'm not going to try to argue too much in the favor of the Bullet. I don't think he's that good. I just don't have any faith in Petrosyan. So I'm still sticking with my Shara Bullet's going to win, but it's mostly off of not really having faith in Petrosyan and less so in I believe in the Bullet. He's going to get derailed at some point.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be a beautiful day when he does.
Yeah, that's what everyone knows. Especially after the last two, who you're kidding yourself. But, I mean, yeah, that's all that really fight is. It's just a seller. It's just there to put someone's name out there. Now, did we want to go over the prelim coverage, or are we for this one?
I have one fight I'd like to talk about on the prelims.
I got one as well. Do you have one, Aaron?
Maybe. Depends what your two fights are, because it might be overlapping here.
Matush Rebecki versus Oralbai is the one I'm looking to talk about.
I love Oralbai. I can't lie. He's Kyrgyz, hometown kind of similar. I can't lie. I do like Oralbai. He looks like Genghis Khan. I don't know too much about him. This is his third fight, I believe, right?
Yes.
I know he's a great grappler, and I know people are really high on him, but I also know that I don't think he's done anything too crazy to where
he beat Elvsbrenner. That was his best fight.
Yeah,
so
haven't seen anything too nuts to really go so crazy over him like everyone is. I see the memes about him. He has made a name for himself in his own way, which is really interesting to see from having only beaten, I guess, Elvsbrenner, who's had his own little moments, but nothing of just putting yourself too crazily out there. But I definitely do see Urabai winning. He's really strong in the way he goes by the grappling and everything, but I don't know. It could also be a fraud check moment. I don't know enough about it to say it, but I will go with the guy who is on that confidence streak and someone who is so heavy on the grappling where it's taxing.
I do. I think I mean, besides Sharabuddin, I tend to always kind of pick the ones they're trying to promote because they'll always want to be favored, but I don't think in this case there's a bigger skill gap than the Petrosyan and the Sharabuddin fight. I think in this one, Orolbai is the favorite in skill-wise and favoritism. I do think Orolbai will take this one home.
I'm picking Mateusz Rebecki. The reason being...
Okay, Roman. Okay, Roman.
The reason being, when I watched the Orolbai versus Elfsbrenner, Orolbai looked really good. He was hurting Elfsbrenner on the feet with some, I think he's southpaw, straight lefts, I think. He was hurting Elfsbrenner on the feet with his striking. But I think it all comes down to the first round. Mateusz Rebecki is a wrestler, and Elfsbrenner was able to get Orolbai to the ground. Orolbai's defensive wrestling doesn't seem to be that amazing. So in that sense, I expect it all comes down to how does Mateusz Rebecki respond to his loss against it was Ferreira, I think it was. How does he respond to that? And I think he'll respond good. I think he'll come out there. Maybe he'll be less aggressive, which might hurt him, but he'll come out there with his wrestling and try to win. And I don't think he'll blow his load like he did against Carlos Diego Ferreira. I think he'll be more conserved and conserve his gas tank, and maybe win maybe either get the first round stoppage or win the second round. But I don't like Orolbai's defensive wrestling. His offensive wrestling, really good. His striking, he has a lot of power, but I just don't think his defensive wrestling is up to snuff against a guy who is as strong and good as Mateusz Rebecki.
Although it is possible, Elfsbrenner is from Judo Box. I know they're known for their greatest of takedowns. They're known for great jiu-jitsu, but that is the Charles Oliveira camp, and we have seen some decent actual takedowns from them, like the double leg that was on Michael Chandler. Although that was something that did happen, Orolbai did have to do that, which I'm sure he's gonna try to make adjustments like any other fighter does when they have you get taken down by someone. But it's not like Elfsbrenner is like a slouch on the ground or like a striker that was someone that was just easily able to take him down. And although his defense wasn't the greatest, but I think he also has the same. He's coming off like wins. He's high. I don't say he's high on himself, but he has reason to be. And then you have a guy coming off a loss against a boxer primarily. Do they really favor well against the guy who's also good at striking and grappling as well?
Diego Ferreira is largely known for his grappling and jiu-jitsu. He is also known for his striking, but he's when he was hyped up before he was an old man, like he is now, he was seen as he's a guy with great scrambling, with great jiu-jitsu, who can keep a fight standing and win there, and sometimes can also threaten with submissions. That's what he was known as, and he had a tough run before USADA got cut. He had a tough run. All these old men seem to be having some new prime time after USADA's come in, or after USADA's left.
I wonder why.
My brain definitely went on. Definitely both grapplers, not a boxer. Brain died.
But yeah, I do. I'm essentially Mateusz Rebecki got out-vetted in his last fight. He lost in to a guy who put on a veteran performance, but I still think he should against Orolbai, who's not a veteran, who was looking gassed at the end of the Elfsbrenner fight. I don't think his gas tank, when he's not in control of the fight, I don't think his gas tank's that great. When he is in control of the fight, he has a good gas tank. When he's not in control, I don't think it's that great. And I think Rebecki will be able to take him down, beat on him on the first round, and it all comes down to how they perform in the second round.
I guess it goes for both sides. Whoever can really impose their grappling is going to be the winner at the end of the day. But I also know that I would have to say Orolbai's striking is better. So if I have to choose, I'm going to pick the guy that, if let's say they cancel each other out like Usman, Colby, who's going to win on the feet. And if they're both really good grapplers, I'm going to take the guy with the bigger toolbox, especially the guy, not only the bigger toolbox, he has the winning streak. He's not coming off a loss against a vet, which that does something to you mentally when you take that loss against someone who's not only older, when they've been there for a while, but they're someone who's not exactly going to be in the title picture, and you're trying to be a champion. That's the end goal. It's a different thing in your head.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times when we see grappler versus grappler matchups, as you mentioned, striking does come in play. They just kind of cancel each other out. And as you saw the Usman and Covington fight, they kind of negated wrestling completely. So I do pick Orolbai for this. He has, I believe, the better skill set, and I just favor him because I do think the UFC is really, really pushing these guys.
I think Mateusz Rebecki is going to win. Just I think physicality. He's going to try to he's going to be the one who's more trying to impose his will, and he does have they both have power, but I do like Mateusz Rebecki's power. I think he also has that option as well. He may be losing on the feet, but he could land one of his overhand rights on Orolbai and knock him out. So that is what's the prelim fight that you're going for?
Oh, this would be quick. Chris Barnett versus Kennedy, and I'm not even going to try for the last name, Nenjoku. It is practically a light heavyweight. He's going the first time for heavyweight versus a guy who can barely make heavyweight, who is also pretty short for heavyweight. He's 5'9". It's a 6'5" guy with range. This fight is pretty it's just going to be, there's no way this goes 3 rounds. Because I think Barnett hasn't even shot for a takedown. He's gotten people to the ground based off of spinning wheel kicks. But can a 5'9" guy land a spinning wheel kick against the 6'5" long-rangey striker? I think this fight is purely for fun, and it is on there for that finish factor because I'm going Kennedy for obvious reasons. The guy, I mean, Chris Barnett's beaten some guys like Jake Collier. It's only like people with his similar type of build and height. But to beat someone that taller who's fought decent people, been able to knock out decent people, great with range, land body shots, I think it's just there for a knockout, and I'm completely there for it being on this card.
This is the fight I would not bet on, I want to say. Simply because I have no clue what's going to happen. They're both not great, but I think Kennedy's not a blob. He's physically imposing. Like you said, he has that. He has range. He has height. He has reach. Chris Barnett should be a middleweight. He is 5'9". He should not be at heavyweight. He has. I don't. And he probably has worse cardio than Kennedy. Kennedy might have better cardio than he usually has at light heavyweight because he doesn't have to cut weight this time.
Yeah, he really doesn't. And he's also faced people like Ian Cutelaba. He's faced decent people, not the greatest. He hasn't gotten to the cream of the crop at all, but he's been around the block, and I don't think Chris Barnett's been around enough. And all he really does is spin, and that's how he gets the job done. And I don't know if he can reach, and if he can reach, I mean, he could capitalize. But I see this as just an absolute layup for Kennedy, just to put him out there. I mean, Chris Barnett can shock the world. He came back for the Collier fight, and Collier isn't the greatest fighter either. It is just a knockout waiting to happen.
It is on either side.
Oh yeah, these two are they're both very very inactive as of times. I don't think they haven't fought in 2 years.
I think Kennedy, the last fight was in 2024. He lost like a split decision to Ovince St. Preux, which isn't the greatest.
Oh, he lost that? I thought he won that.
No. He lost by split decision. So I mean, maybe that's why you thought he won it.
That's really bad. Ovince St. Preux. I mean, he's an old man who probably is on that end of USADA juice.
End of the juice. Which I mean, he isn't a slouch either. Like there was a time where he was like tearing through people. Yeah, he was a contender, but I would still take a guy who's been through better people than I would take Chris Barnett, who's struggled to make the heavyweight limit, which is crazy enough. There's no way you miss weight, but Francis can make the weight. And then some heavyweights don't even bother reaching the limit, like Stipe. He's not even close.
The real question is, how is his knees still able to take him into these fights with how large he is, his frame, and him doing all that spinny shit?
Yeah.
How are his knees still there?
I have no idea. And can he handle leg kicks? We haven't seen him face anyone with any type of pure athleticism at all.
It's heavyweight. They rarely have these technical abilities. Most of the time, they just kind of go to slugfests.
Yeah, but at least I think his last 3. What was it? There's the Collier fight. The guy before that, who used to be, was he a light heavyweight or a middleweight? And he just fattened up and then decided to fight at heavyweight. Forgot the guy's name because he got spin kicked and then front flipped on. But it's just here for a KO, and I love every part of it.
Kennedy by KO is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying Kennedy by KO.
I do think that's the most favorable odds because I mean, you actually remember Chris Burnett is coming in on 2 weeks notice, a week notice, because it's really supposed to be Justin Tafa, I believe.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's coming in, and can he even make the weight? He missed weight last time. I don't know. I have no idea how this is gonna go, and how much does Kennedy weigh? I have no idea what he's gonna be like heavyweight. He might even does he just not cut weight? What does he do? And how athletic is he when he's at that weight?
Mhm.
Or has he just been chilling and like eating? Is he gonna be fat when he shows up? I have no idea, but I'm still gonna favor Kennedy in this matchup completely because I only see one path to victory for Chris Barnett. And I don't see him spinning his way to victory in this one. I don't see the Beyblade pulling it out.
No.
I'm scared just to bet on this fight. The next thing I see in the first round, he comes in spinning heel hook.
I mean, I will never be
heel kick.
like.
It's the meme fight of the night.
Yeah,
It is a meme
that's what
fight.
that's what it really is. It is the meme fight of the night. Like I don't know who really made this and who thought this was a great idea, but it is hilarious and I don't mind it. I would rather this be on the bottom of the main card than the bullet.
Yeah, Sam.
If he pulls off a single good heel kick that lands, it's already gonna be a better fight than Sharabudian.
Yeah.
That in itself.
I already even if he just spins, he doesn't have to land it. It is already gonna be better.
He's just loved by spinning. Like that. People love him not because he's a good fighter, just because he spins.
And because he's pulled it off. Like
Yeah.
you can spin all you want, but if you haven't pulled it off, but to pull it off like I think once or twice, as long as you pull it off once, people will be like, oh, that's possible. But if you're just spinning to spin, then just people look at you like you're stupid. But he's done it, and with his frame, so you can't really like. But how high can it reach is the question.
Has he fought anybody at like similar height before?
No.
Okay, I don't know too much about Chris Burnett besides, like you said, the tactical montages and the compilations of him like spinning and.
Yeah, so far he's only really fought in like guys that may be like 1 or 2 inches taller than him, and that are like same kind of pot belly build, like Tank Abbott-ish.
That Daniel Cormier walk around.
Yeah. So, all I know is that he's a meme fighter. They're both. Inshuku was Kennedy was hyped at one time because he looked good, but he's kind of not been able to put it all together. He's going up a weight class, but I don't think that'll matter because Chris Burnett's not that good.
It's he's going up a weight class, but that weight class. That weight class, people have been shown to go up to light heavyweight to heavyweight, and especially there's certain type of heavyweights where I'll be like, oh snap! Like if you're fighting like a Volkov, if you're fighting a Sergey, then that's like, yeah, I don't know about that one, buddy. But to fight like the less active, I would say, heavyweights that are just kind of there for that one and done, I'm gonna favor him all the way. And this is a guy whose one and done is much harder than just an overhand right.
Yeah. So, are we ending it there, or do you have another fight you want to go over, Aaron?
As far as the prelims?
Yeah.
Honestly, as far as I think that's it. Like I'm as far as like the prelims, the only really fights I'm excited for is the oral by fight. I was looking forward to the like you said, the light Charles Oliveira versus light Khabib. I mean light Islam Makhachev fights, but I got canceled. I noticed.
Oh, did it?
I think so. Yeah, Said Nurmagomedov versus Daniel
yes.
Santos. I got canceled, yeah.
I didn't do any I haven't seen either of them fight. I'm not gonna lie.
Zaid, I'm pretty sure, has been a disappointment after losing to the one American, which was a close like decision. But like, as if you're a Nurmagomedov, if you're related to that family, you're expected from big things, and that wasn't exactly a big thing. Although I did agree that he probably shouldn't have lost the fight, it's still a loss on the record nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have been interesting to see. And then I think they replaced that with one guy from the Contender Series, and then one guy who just signed, who I think is undefeated, and put that at the top of the main card for some ungodly reason. Well, top of the prelims, which I think it should have been RDA and Geoff Neal.
Oh,
that
yeah.
should have took that spot beyond it, which is also a good fight in itself. But.
Ibo Aslan, Rafael Kirkua. That's gonna be a fun fight.
I'm not great on that on RDA versus Geoff Neal because I just think RDA is old.
I mean, he is, but he's also been able to prove himself that he should still be there. Versus like the Tony Ferguson of like, God, please let his soul rest. Like RDA has still been able to prove things. And although they are feeding him to top talent, which isn't the greatest, they've done worse. They fed Jim Miller like cans. I think they could have given him better treatment, which is why, in that sense, I don't like it. But at the same time, if the guy's winning and that's what he wants, I can't deny him.
He lost his last fight and the fight before. He's on, I think.
Is he on a 2-fight losing streak?
Yeah, he lost to Luque, and then he lost to Mateusz Gamrot.
Okay, the Luque one, that's one I remember. That one was bad. Gamrot, yeah, I can put some respect on that one. So I do say they are really just feeding him to the wolves. But
How those losses, like, aged, though? Losing to Mateusz Gamrot hasn't aged well since then.
Mateusz Gamrot immediately lost to Hooker after.
Yep.
true.
And Luque got just bombed by Buckley and gave up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, both of those losses aged really, really badly. And in my opinion, as age goes on, chins deteriorates. No matter how good you are in your prime, once you hit a certain age, you will get knocked out by fighters that
Would not have beaten you before.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Jeff Neal is just somebody that has pure power. He's not technical. He just has pure power. And this is, the way I see it, this is just a very easy way to keep Jeff Neal in that, like, say,
You're
7 to
keeping him in that
10.
picture,
Yeah, 7-10 placement, kind of a gatekeeper. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't see RDA really doing anything here. I think this is another easy Jeff Neal TKO.
I definitely go for Jeff Neal. I mean, but I still wouldn't count RDA out because he is RDA.
Yeah.
No matter what you, that guy was a champion at one point in time, and he can mix up grappling. But it's technically, I want to say, upper weight class. His last win was against Brian Barberena, which isn't the greatest win of all.
He's cut from the UFC.
Yeah, like he's gone, which, I mean, people have been cut for worse things, but it's definitely a feeder fight. But I also like it because RDA has the tools to do it. Is he young enough to? I don't think so. And Geoff Neal isn't a guy to be messed with. He gave Shavkat a decent run for his money. So is he being fed? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. But can he get it done? Yes. I don't think it's as bad as like the Kennedy Barnett fight.
It's not but that one's a fun. I'm just gonna be sad for this one. This one's just
Yeah.
gonna make me sad. This is a get into the glue factory, old man. This is it's not gonna be. I'm not gonna have a fun time watching this, or maybe I will because I love violence. I don't know.
The bigger question is RDA going to put down his gloves after this one?
I hope.
This is if he loses one, this is third in a row, you guys said, right?
I don't know. It's possible. It is his third in a row, but it's against a guy like Geoff Neal.
For purse-wise, like, as far as, like, rankings goes and, like, storyline goes, if he loses this one, arguably he has maybe another fight or two before he's out of the rankings.
I think he might be the type of guy that, like, they give him that
Neil Magny.
They give him like Neil Magny, or they just give him the eternal gatekeeper. I think they might give him that retirement fight that they've been giving people lately, like the Robbie Lawler Nico Price, which went extremely well. I don't think that this could be it for him. It's very, like, especially depending on how bad Geoff Neal really puts it on him, because Geoff Neal has the power. If he goes out there and just it's a bad time to see, then that's very possible. But he could also get the sweet goodbye treatment. But who knows? The UFC is very iffy on who they give that to.
Okay, this has been a long one, guys.
Yeah.
This is the Fight Night podcast signing off.